And we're going to find out exactly how Superjj wants to adjust to this match so far, because he's got to get something going. Game number 3, Superjj and Muzzy is getting underway.
It'll be interesting to see if Superjj changes it up. He's queued up the same deck here for the first 2 games, and look at this. He's going into Rogue, and he's got a South Sea deckhand in this one.
Yeah, Rogue's something that Superjj is very much known for. One of his signature decks.
Streams with it a lot.
Yeah, but Muzzy, you know, he said that he thinks that Druid has a very favorable matchup against this, and Ancient of War has been finding its way into a lot of these Druid decks, and he thinks it puts a ton of pressure on them. You know, he beat Purple in this matchup. You know, they queued up Rogue versus Druid 4 games in a row.
Yeah, I was about to say, you know, he queued it up 4 games in a row against Purple, and he actually said afterwards that he really thought that it was, you know, a favorable matchup for his Druid deck against Rogue here. Now, Superjj also known for Rogue. I expected to see this deck even sooner than this.
Yeah, I would have too. I mean, the fact that he's consistently played it very well, and you know, choosing to go with Handlock 2 games in a row. You know, excuse me, Muzzy's been having a ton of success with Druid lately. You know, something like Handlock and a Druid, that's a tough matchup.
Superjj's eyes just lit up at that Innervate.
Yeah, I mean, Innervate Shade and Extramus is so difficult to deal with.
It's also weird to think about it, but, you know, in the back of his mind, he's probably like, oh, thankfully, it's just a Shade.
Yeah. See, now at this point, though, the fact that he has drawn this Blade Flurry, I think he's hoping he sees something like a second Shade or something like an Innervate into a Piloted Shredder. This Blade Flurry is going to do a ton of work.
Yeah, if he goes coin Shade of Nexaramas here this turn, you're going to see a great turn here from Superjj.
Yeah, I think Muzzy, honestly, he's got to be thinking about that right now. Like, how does this... What happens in this game if I coin this Shade Next Ramas and he doesn't have Poison Blade Flurry? You know, your opponent has to have almost exactly Poison Blade Flurry. You know, Prep, Tinker, Sharp Sword, Oil Blade Flurry would work as well, but you're not coming out 2 behind in a situation like that. But Deadly Poison Blade Flurry, I think that's the nightmare scenario for him right now if he plays the second Shade, and you can see that he's thinking about this very hard.
Yeah, if you were to play a second Shade here and they were to do something like Prep, Oil, Blade Flurry, it's not the end of the world. That wouldn't be the worst thing possible. But if they do something like Deadly Poison, attack you for 3, and then just Blade Flurry, that feels like a big loss to you.
Yeah, Superjj is just going to Blade Flurry this one. Cannot afford to let the Shade grow any bigger. So it's going to be a 2 for 2 here. Does get a little bit better of the damage side of things. But Muzzy, he's going to have a second Shade to back this up.
And look, you can see Muzzy kind of like nod his head there. He knew. He was like, you know what, I could have played this Shade, but I'm really, you know, happy with myself and glad at myself that I didn't do it there and didn't walk into this blowout.
Yeah, the small victories are the ones that really matter, and Superjj's hand starting to get very strong at this point. Prep Sprint has a second Prep to back this up, has a lot of different tempo plays that he can use to get back into this game. But he's going to have to start by fighting through one of these 5 drops.
Yeah, and Muzzy has a couple of taunters here to help hold off this Pilot Shredder and protect his Shade going forward if he ever wants to take it out of this out of the Shroud anytime soon. But it's a little, you know, it's a little dicey to do that when it's still just a 3 toughness minion.
Yeah, so Superjj is going to have his work cut out for him with his Sludge Belcher, but you know, going to have 4 extra draws to make sure it gets done. And you can see Muzzy, he's really thinking about trading in the Shade. You know, exactly how much value does it have in this scenario? Can you just protect your Sludge Belcher and really try to get things done here too? Wants to think about every single thing, and I love that he's taking his time.
Yeah, we're seeing a different play. We're seeing a different player here from Muzzy in his last couple of matches, and frankly, I'm just loving it. I want to see this guy succeed. You know, I love seeing him change up his plans here and playing better.
A lot of action getting added to Superjj's hand. You know, but how exactly does he want to play this turn in particular? This is, I mean, it's getting tougher and tougher for him in every step of the way. Just going to be very patient with himself and hold on to these things. And this is kind of a spot now. I think this is a small window of opportunity for Muzzy to really start turning things around.
Yeah, especially with his Wrath drawn. You know, he has a second one in his hand, so he can just, you know, fire off this one a little more willy-nilly than before and take care of those Pilot Shredder. And oh, it gets replaced by another 4-3.
Yeah, it does have a second Wrath to take care of it, though. I'm curious if willy-nilly is the technical term.
Oh, it is a technical. It is the technical term.
Using your cards. But you know, again, he could just use his Sludge Belcher in this spot. Maybe he wants to hold on to Wrath in a situation like this.
Yeah, he doesn't want to be too willy-nilly.
My grandpa used to say. He's going to use the second Wrath, though. I don't blame him for this. This is the power of Piloted Shredder, is that it does kind of often force these actions from your opponent. And I really would like to see this Shade stay hidden right now. He's going to go for it, though. He will get punished a little bit by an Eviscerate in this situation. But, you know, Superjj doesn't have any threats on the board, so the fact that he would continue to force Superjj to react to what he's doing, not necessarily a bad thing for him. And he also has Druid of the Claw in his hand, so if this Shade does get taken care of, the Druid of the Claw is going to be that much harder.
Yeah, Muzzy has a lot of stuff behind him. I'm guessing that's the reason that he let the Shade come out of stealth here, since he has the Druid of the Claw and the Savage Roar behind. He's just trying to find as much damage possible. And he knows that if Superjj wants to do something like Eviscerate this turn, he has to play a spell, and then he needs 2 more mana to do an Eviscerate. So he needs to do multiple things this turn, and he might be forced into doing stuff he didn't want to do.
Does have very clean ways to deal with everything, though. So Don't think it's going to be too tough for him. He's just trying to figure out the best way to do it. So Deadly Poison's going to start. Looks like he's going to SI7 agent this and then prep out the Eviscerate on this Shade. I love that he's using his preparations very aggressively. He understands that he's under so much pressure this match that he doesn't have time to just wait and use everything at his leisure. He's got to get something going.
Yeah, he can't be, you can be patient. You can't be super patient in these matchups. If you just keep taking some of this damage, it's like what happened in the last game. Eventually it snowballs out of control and all of a sudden they just die to a Savage Roar.
Yeah, I mean, that's the last situation you want to be in. Muzzy, though, he finds himself in familiar territory versus Rogue. A single threat on board and either ways to develop or ways to answer what's going on.
Yeah, it's so dangerous to leave minions on board against Rogue, but sometimes you just have to take some risk, and sometimes you just have to leave them out there. So it's interesting to see how Muzzy wants to progress going forward to this. Does he want to take this game a little bit slower, swipe this SI7 agent, make, because you can see Superjj doesn't have another minion in his hand.
Yeah, doesn't have another minion, but does have another sprint in his hand. So if he weathers this storm, he's going to have a very clean couple of turns onward from here. And Muzzy going to get really aggressive with his Druid of the Claw. This is kind of interesting to me. Fan of Knives now looking pretty fantastic for Superjj, but is that what he wants? Is that where he wants to be right now? Does he want to be using a Fan of Knives and then not having any minion pressure behind it? He'd have to draw a minion off this.
I mean, you can see his eyes are a little wider here. He's trying to figure out what is Muzzy doing. Why did he make this, pretty aggressive play? I liked the play from Muzzy, but it's aggressive, and so he's wondering, what's going on? Am I going to die to another Savage Roar? Is this another thing that happened like the game before?
Yeah.
Is he seeing double right now?
That's a possibility. But the fact that both of his preparations are gone, also the sprint won't give him any action behind this. Sprint would be his only play.
Yeah, he has a couple other options too. Like he could use his backstab and his dagger to take care of some things here if he wants, and then antique healbot from there, and then re-dagger up. And that might be, a cleaner turn for Superjj. It might be something he likes a little bit more since it gets him a minion on the board. But how much more damage can he take? Is it better than Fan of Knives in here? And it also depends on what does he draw for the Fan of Knives, because if he Fans of Knives here, then he doesn't really have much else going on.
That's exactly what he's thinking about too. He's thinking about how every single draw in his deck really affects this play right here. It looks like he's going to make the aggressive one and use his dagger on this 4-1 and then play anti-heal up behind this. Again, the biggest talking point for this deck is continuing to have minion pressure at every single step of the way. And even though it's not a very big minion, the fact that he's got anti-healbot with a Tinker Sharpsword Oil and a fresh dagger up, this is problematic for Muzzy at this point.
Also, with Muzzy making that play last turn, you have to believe that maybe his hand is kind of soft if you can stick a minion going forward. Like maybe he doesn't have any more defense left over.
He's seen 2 Wraths at this point as well. I mean, he has to have something like Swipe.
He's seen 2 Wraths. He's already seen multiple minions of taunt. He's gotten through them. So maybe it's signaling to him, yeah, this is the time for me to really start to, try to, put the pedal to the metal here and just go.
Yeah, and this is going to be the opportunity, I think, to say that Superjj wants to be able to sprint and then start recovering this turn. Backstab would be a great draw for him. But, this turn is not very dangerous for him. He does get backstab. He's even got Southsea Deckhand, but the Southsea Deckhand, very likely to be saved for something like Tinker Sharpsword Oil once those big burst turns. But again, Muzzy's so low on cards that maybe he doesn't feel like he needs to save this Southsea Deckhand. He's going to save it instead. I think it is better, in coupled with something like Tinker Sharpsword Oil. And now he's in the driver's seat. Muzzy draws completely dead on this turn.
Yeah, Muzzy's going to hero power.
This is the dream turn for the opponent of the Druid deck.
Watch Superjj's reaction here. He's going to sit up a little bit, a little cleaner in his chair and be like, "Oh, this is my game to win now."
Oh wow! Even picks up Lothab, and now he's completely in the driver's seat in this game. Azure Drake going to make sure he has more options.
He has double sap in his hand now too. So if Muzzy were to top deck something like Ancient of War, which we've seen in his deck and we saw in his opening hand, he's got a lot of ways to deal with it going forward. He's doing a lot of math right now. He's going to make sure he gets in his full 5 with this Eviscerate here, and he's even going to attack with his dagger because he gets to re-dagger up. Muzzy is actually facing lethal next turn.
Yeah, he's got to get something going, and when your opponent eviscerates you for 5,
that is scary.
When you're at 26, that it's a spot where you have to do something off the board.
Not a bad draw here from Muzzy. He can clean out this Azure Drake now. But again, going forward, it's not where he wants to be.
I mean, does he use Savage Roar to couple with this just to try to get extra damage out as well?
All right, so if you do that, you get in an extra 10, so it brings Superjj down to 10. But then where does that get you? You know what I mean? Like, where do you go from there?
I mean, it's tough at this point. You're just so low on options, and this is
next turn. You do get 2 cards. You do get to draw a card for your turn. Plus, Wild Growth gets to cycle for 2 mana, so you get 2 cards from there. So your mana is going to be used up that turn, and then hopefully you draw like a 7-drop. To use up a lot of your mana the turn after. So there's a chance you see him do that just as a mana consideration and just to get in the damage while you can.
Yeah, I think it's going to end up at the end of the day being a little bit too late for him to really get anything going. Wants to hang on to Savage Roar. If he draws a second Force Nature, maybe he can clean out multiple minions. But Superjj has a Lothab to add back behind this, and that's going to be back-breaking from Muzzy. Not going to be able to cycle the Wild Growth after that.
Yeah, I think there's going to be a chance you're going to see Lotheb and South Sea Deckhand in a real push here this turn.
Yeah, I mean, Violet Teacher also, to add to this, I mean, if you Lotheb Violet Teacher, this game is all but over at this point.
Great draw.
It's really any minion. I mean, he could have drawn like Booty Bay Bodyguard.
Yeah, I was going to say Superjj pretty much can't lose from this point.
Yeah, it's just going to go with a little bit more aggression though. Tinker Sharp.
Yeah, I like this. This is what I was talking about. Just do it in this order and then get the Lotheb out after, making sure you can attack for the full 5 or the full 9 this turn if you want to.
Yep. He's going to use his dagger as well. Muzzy's at 12 and he has
0 outs in his
to draw something. I mean, Ancient of War isn't going to be good enough. Harrison Jones, maybe he can draw Druid of the Claw here. You know, that isn't enough. That isn't 11 damage from Superjj. So Muzzy's actually still alive this turn. But the fact that Superjj just has 2 saps in his hand, you know, he can pretty easily fight off all this pressure. And then Muzzy's going to be sitting on such a low life total. How does he actually come back from that?
Well, he's already seen both eviscerate, so he can attack the minion here kind of willy-nilly and take the damage here. But yeah, we're going to see what he has to draw here, the Azure Drake. There's a couple cards that kill him from here, but there's not many instant death cards from Muzzy here.
Muzzy's going to need something big. Well, Tinker Sharp Sword Oil.
He could actually just go for it.
Well, I don't think he's going to go for it. I think he's going to end up sapping here.
Yeah.
But everything looks in Superjj's favor right now. Yeah, I'm just going to sap, deliver 5 points of damage. And he can even just still dagger up. You know, if Muzzy commits 5 mana to a Harrison Jones, I think Superjj is totally fine with that.
Yeah, I think he's just going to okay. But you should definitely swing here, right? For one. You don't want to give him 2 cards.
You have to swing for one. No reason not to. Just a free point of damage at this point. And Muzzy needs something big off this Harrison Jones. I don't know a single card that can actually get him out of this scenario because Superjj's got the second sap in his hand, but he's going to fight as hard as he can. He's still going to try.
Again, yeah, he's not technically dead on board yet. He can still have a couple draws to keep himself alive here.
Wild Growth's going to get cycled first. Actually pick up here.
Ancient
Lore can heal the 5, but it's not going to be enough. Yeah. Muzzy has no outs to actually win this game at this point, and Superjj going to put his first win on the board, send this one into game 4.
Yeah, that first step to that reverse sweep.
It's always that's got to be such a bad feeling too when you're in Muzzy's spot. You know, you're so close to just closing the game out right here, then Superjj just having such a fantastic hand to make sure he can get to this point, and then that turn 8 from Muzzy, just literally no action from him. That's got to be brutal. But, you know, he still has 2 games to get this done. Going to keep his cool. But in the meantime, Superjj going to take his first step into turning this series back around.
Yeah, love this queue up from Superjj. Loved the way he played this game. And as you said, Muzzy just kind of ran out of gas there at the end. I think it was turn 8 where he just used his hero power, attacked Superjj, pass. Never want to see that.
That is the nightmare scenario for a lot of decks, is when you just have no card to play on turn 8. Such an important turn. You know, even just a 5-drop and then floating the other 3 mana, that would be totally fine for him, but just had nothing instead. If you guys want to see exactly how Superjj put himself in a winning position, head over to pvplive.net and see it for yourself. The full stats, breakdowns, recaps, everything you need to know about this game and how it happened, as well as their competitive histories. Take a glance at what they played in the past, maybe what they'll play in the future. And speaking of that future, they're changing their decks for it right now. And when we come back, we're going to get into game number 4. Superjj puts his first win on the board in this series, but Muzzy still on match point. This is anyone's series. Don't go anywhere, guys. You're watching Hearthstone on PvP Live.